Welcome to What You Need to Know with Carla Pileggi Caviola. So good to be with you. Today on our show, we will be talking about perinatal OCD with our special guest and expert, Noah Suzuki. Noah Suzuki is a licensed professional counselor with specialized training in holding therapy for perinatal distress and exposure-based treatments for anxiety disorders, specifically obsessive compulsive disorder or OCD. He is a psychotherapist at the Postpartum Stress Center and a director of OCD training and consultation at the Karen Kleiman Training Center. Noah has coordinated and led several trainings for clinicians in the treatment of perinatal OCD. Noah, it is a true honor to have you with us today. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. I know today is going to be an exciting episode, but we're going to jump right in because we want to get to know you a little bit more. So tell me
Absolutely.
a little bit about, or tell us a little bit about your story, kind of your personal and educational background, and of course, how you got into this work as a psychotherapist, perinatal psychotherapist, and director for OCD training and consultation at the
Yeah,
Postpartum Stress Center.
absolutely. So I would say my path kind of started in early childhood, kind of recognized really early on that there was a level of comfort that people felt with me. And it was, when I was maybe in elementary school that my mother kind of mentioned, like, you might want to think about, thinking about going in a career in psychology, which kind of got the ball rolling and sort of fueled sort of my early experiences in terms of direction and professional goals. Um, Not necessarily the most conventional in that case, but when the ball got rolling, you start seeing more and more ways that this could really be a cool opportunity to both connect with people, to help, and to provide some direction. Um, so that kind of
Absolutely. You already
absolutely.
had a gift at an early age where people felt comfortable. That's amazing. So you were able to kind of, yeah, lean into that and felt led into that direction.
Absolutely. And, still figuring things out as I was growing up, but basically that interest took me to the University of Michigan, which was an incredible undergrad experience. Got a lot of really, really great instruction, had some good research experience, and it sort of opened up sort of more direction and more specifics. And that's where I became interested in some of the things that I ended up following through with come grad school and then with my post grad experience.
Amazing. Amazing.
Um, but yeah, I would say that the big turning point in from a career perspective was working at the University of Pennsylvania's Center for Treatment and Study of Anxiety, which is led by Dr. Edna Foa, who sadly passed away in the last
Oh,
year.
sorry to
Um,
hear that.
I
Yeah.
appreciate it. She was a pioneer of the field, very, very influential in the creation of treatments for post-traumatic stress as well as obsessive compulsive disorder. So I was a research assistant there and an intake coordinator, and part of that
Excellent.
job involved some really good direct clinical training
Oh, I
in these
imagine.
treatments. So
Yeah.
definitely gave this like really, really deep, rich experience. And initially, that really drew me to post traumatic stress and prolonged exposure therapy. But it wasn't until I was at Temple for my master's that I was put in touch with the Postpartum Stress Center, and this whole journey really got going.
Amazing. I love
Thank
it.
you.
So yeah, you have excellent clinical experience. You've been involved with research, and then now here you are working with the perinatal population or expectant and postpartum parents.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's
And
an
how did
amazing
how did that
population.
kind of coincide, all of that experience, and then like kind of like niching down into this specific world
Yeah, no,
again,
that's a great question.
expectant and postpartum parents?
Yeah, so my connection with the postpartum stress center was certainly by coincidence initially. My one of my advisors when I was at my master's program had been a patient at the center, and
Okay.
when she had initially been postpartum and brought up this is an amazing practice. My director, Karen Kleiman, the founder of the center, author, training extraordinaire, had done some incredible work and was fortunately able to be put in touch with them. And I actually piloted their practicum and internship program. So I was kind of their guinea pig in that respect, which gave me this introduction to such an amazing population with such clear symptoms that come through and so many unique elements. And my background with obsessive compulsive disorder really came through in seeing just how many symptoms we were seeing specifically with this group of expecting and recently become parents.
Yes, of course. That's amazing. So, yeah, tell us a little bit about, I mean, first of all, yes, I agree with you. Karen Kleiman is amazing. So it's wonderful that you were able to kind of get in and work with her. She's one of the pioneers of the field, and I was fortunate enough to do training with her, receive training from her back in 2014. So I have a special place in my heart for Karen Kleiman and her books, which some of them are on my bookshelf right here behind me. So I can't wait to get your book here, the one that you're co-authoring with her. But we're going to get to that in a minute, and that's very exciting. So how, tell me how you, like, I guess just understanding the spectrum of the work that you're doing today in the center. Tell us just a little snippet about that.
Sure. So one of the things that we see with expecting and recent parents, we have a 2.5 times increase in the level of risk for obsessive compulsive symptoms. Almost 100% of new parents experience some form of intrusive thoughts, those scary thoughts that come in that are unshakable. And when we started to see just how pervasive and prevalent this was, it really got the ball rolling of how do we make sure that people are both getting the care that they need, but also that clinicians and providers have the background in understanding this and being able to work with it. Because if there's one thing about OCD, it's that it can be scary on the surface. And so once I had built up a pretty robust caseload of people that were experiencing OCD, we were seeing just how much it was showing up in our practice, but also across the world. That got us to start formulating some trainings related to OCD treatment, which took off in a really, really unexpected fashion. We saw right away just how many people were looking for some direction, some conversation, the opportunity to process what was coming up. And since then, we have developed. We're coming up on our fourth training. We do them quarterly. They have an amazing, amazing turnout. And actually, on top of that, we provide a consultation group. So I've been able to work a little bit with the clinicians who we train in in their clinical work, and trying to work with them through some of the things that we may come up against, some of the resistance that we may face, and some of the ways that it can be helpful to have some of that support. So it's really turned into this massive opportunity, which kind of led into what you mentioned of the opportunity to write this book that we have coming out, just to try to reach as many people as possible, because we feel that there is so much value to more understanding around this topic.
Absolutely. And I'm so excited for you guys. This is going to be so great on a global scale, because I know it's going to impact so many lives, and just people understand that they're not alone, right? And understand what OCD is and what OCD might look like during that perinatal period, or, again, pregnancy, postpartum period, typically through the first year of life, unless, maybe one chooses to breastfeed beyond. But that is so important. And for anyone, I guess, maybe even in our audience today, can you help us just to clarify? I know sometimes there's a bit of ambiguity about OCD, and tell us a little bit of what that's like, and the difference between, again, what we typically see, which, again, many parents will experience as the intrusive thoughts and scary thoughts. But how do we differentiate that for anyone that might be kind of not quite sure here? I'd love to have you share a little bit about that.
Absolutely. No, it's a great question. And I think that's one of the things that can be so challenging for parents is when they're experiencing symptoms and it's hard to pinpoint how concerned should I be. And
Yes.
so the first thing that I will say is that every human being experiences intrusive thoughts.
Hmm.
The analogy that I give is how many times have you ever been driving and the thought crosses your mind just very briefly of what if I turned the wheel? Or when standing on a ledge, what happens if I walked forward? These
Mm.
things that are automatic and they often represent this sort of forbidden, terrible, disruptive thing.
Mhm.
Now, when I use these examples, these are experiences that are common enough and we are kind of habituated, we've normalized it enough where we can kind of have that thought and shake it off without it having really much of an impact whatsoever.
Mhm.
When we're talking about obsessive compulsive disorder, that thought acts as a seed for a host of other symptoms.
Mhm.
So the presence of the thought itself represents this fault, this flaw, this thing that needs to be fixed and needs to be neutralized. And that's
Mhm.
when we start seeing that diagnostic symptom profile where there are so many desperate attempts to neutralize, to cope with, and to move forward in response to the presence of these thoughts. And the
Mhm.
real marker is level of disruption. How much space is this taking up?
Mhm.
Because, what we hear is the thoughts keep coming, and then the corresponding behaviors that I do keep following, and it's getting out of control. What I like to say is, anxiety is greedy. It's always going to want more. And what we find is people, these things can start off relatively benign, but when they start kind of amplifying, they start taking up more space, life can sort of become this minefield to navigate. And that's really when we start coming in. And one of the things that we wanted to do this podcast for was so that more people could have insight into when is it a good time to reach out? When is it a
That's
good
right.
time to be able to say, enough is enough and I need some professional direction?
Yeah. And everybody deserves to have that support and to understand, like, if this is something going through, what can I do to get what would be the next steps to get the help that's needed? That, like you said,
Exactly.
you're fed up, you're ready to get that help. You don't have to suffer alone. You don't have to suffer in silence, right? Nobody,
Mhm.
we, be just having a baby in itself can be so isolating, right? And
Absolutely.
there's that hormonal surge during pregnancy, a hormonal crash postpartum, and
Mhm.
that hormonal fluctuations also affects brain chemistry postpartum, and being compromised, and then the sleep deprivation. It's just like there's a lot of these factors that are out of people's control. That's just the natural, right, biochemistry of our body.
And
um
that's coming in conjunction when you're at a time in life where you're used to having things sort of in order, right? Like the time that you're ready to have a baby and you're bringing life onto this planet is a lot of times a situation where I'm feeling really good about my job. My partner and I are working really well together. And there are a lot of these elements of I have my ducks in a row and I'm used to being able to thrive. And if there's one
mhm,
thing that we see, it's that thriving in the postpartum period doesn't really take that same exact form. And for a lot of people, that is a huge wake up call of the
mhm.
things that I can typically do to stay on top of everything, to
That's right.
feel satisfied, to not feel anxious aren't as available to me.
Mhm.
And that's on top of the pressure that parents feel to really hit the ground running to figure it all out. And all of these things swirling around really create this perfect storm condition.
Yeah, yeah. It's hard to control things also, right? If somebody has that
Exactly.
tendency during
Mhm.
pregnancy, postpartum, there's just so many transitions, there's so many things happening, again, organically in the body, and then any
Mhm.
stressors outside, external stressors, and maybe the family dynamic, or like you said, there's work stressors, there's this or that, or maybe everything seems fine, and but, 50% of pregnancies are unplanned too. So
Mhm. That's
it's
true.
there's a lot of factors that play into this, and again, personal history, family history, all of that regarding mental health. So
Absolutely.
there's just it's such an important topic that we want to emphasize that nobody needs to suffer in silence, right? Like you said, if it's causing significant distress in your life, there's no need to be suffering alone and being on that path alone, isolated. That there are people that are trained and willing to help you so you can start feeling better, right? And feeling maybe a little bit more like yourself.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
the one last thing that I want to say there is you mentioned how important it is to be able to speak up. This is a scary thing to be experiencing, and it's a really common experience that people report, which is, I don't know who I can tell. I don't want these thoughts to be misinterpreted.
Yeah.
I don't want to be misconstrued, and I don't want people to think less of me. So there's
Mhm.
also a huge, huge push to try to hide it, to mask it, to cover it up. And
Mhm.
I really want to give parents and individuals the power and the confidence and the
Mhm.
comfort to be able to express what they have been experiencing without fear of it kind of being turned
That's right.
around on them.
Yeah. Yeah, because often those obsessive thoughts can come with guilt and shame,
Hmm.
right? And but it is important to know, and as providers, clinicians, anybody working in the medical field, right, to understand what's the difference between that and something maybe that is high risk, right? A lower risk versus a higher risk
Hmm.
situation. But being able to find those providers that are able to discern and understand. If you want to tell us a little bit about more about that, any thoughts on that, Noah?
In terms of being able to digest and take
Mhm.
this information and know what to do with it, the main thing that I'm looking for is the presence of this scary thought something that you don't align with, that you are not, that I am not concerned about the risk of it happening. And that is different than the individual being afraid of it
Mhm.
happening. And so this is also trusting in the judgment of the people that you're working with, because from my end of things, I'm doing a lot of additional assessments. I am making sure that you're getting some level of sleep. I'm making sure that there is support on a familial partner, you name it level.
Mhm.
I'm checking in to see about other additional risks that I want to be kind of scanning for.
Mhm.
And that's also something that I feel very equipped talking about, no matter what the outcome is, no matter what we're finding in there. And that's really the end, the real meat here is how to get every parent the resources that they need. And fortunately, we live in a society that does have so many resources and so much there. So it's not a matter of you need to kind of fit into this box or else I can't help you. It's I want to be able to get an idea of what's going on so I can figure out the best ways to support you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And again, therapists or providers that are trained, they know what questions to ask so they can help sift through all of that when maybe it seems confusing or you don't know what's going on. And I mean, I feel like I've had clients and they're just like, what the heck is going on here? Like, it's just,
Hmm.
it's a lot. And it's sometimes hard to understand what's going on.
Yeah.
But to be able to sit with someone to get that clarity and then to say, okay, well, this is what's happening and there's a path forward we're going to provide. And I'm going to walk with you in that direction
Yes.
to help you provide that support towards your goals.
Exactly.
It's so life changing.
Hmm.
It can be
No,
so life changing.
and it's a huge pleasure to be on the other side, to be able to take what somebody is sharing a lot of times for the first time and to be able to say,
Absolutely.
I am not afraid of this and we can do something about this.
Yeah,
And, it's a really powerful statement to be able to give to somebody who is so lost and may have never experienced anything like this before.
that's right. Yeah, because it is so scary. And it's just,
Absolutely.
like you said, to have that safe place to, yeah, be able to start healing and moving in the right direction is what this podcast is all about too, is really helping people to find feel empowered so that they can start moving toward health and well-being,
Absolutely.
so again, besides this amazing work that you're doing, Noah, as a psychotherapist and perinatal specialist, postpartum stress center, you're also a clinical director for the OCD training program. You and Karen Kleiman are just about to launch a book. So I'm so excited to have you on the show. Also, because of that, And again, I know this is going to be a life-changing book for so many people. So tell us about this book.
Absolutely.
Um, again, this is big. So tell us more about your book.
Absolutely. So, for those that aren't familiar, I'm going to do a quick pitch for the first book in the series that we've added to, which is called Good Moms Have Scary Thoughts. So, this was
Yes.
the initial book by Karen Kleiman going into some of the presence of these intrusive thoughts. And the real beauty of the format is that, in addition to text and kind of those pieces of just a general book, there's also going to be these kind of comics that go with it and like little graphics to be
Yes.
able to follow, trying to make it as interactive as possible and as digestible as possible.
Absolutely. And I've
Um,
seen that book. Again, it's a wonderful book, and it just really helps to normalize. Just because you're having a scary thought doesn't mean you have a desire to act upon it, right? It's just a thought. And but it
absolutely.
can be scary if you don't know what it is. You're like, why is this popping in my head? Why is this image popping in my head, right? So
Hmm.
that's a fantastic book.
Yep.
And like you said, it makes it really digestible.
Absolutely. And that's the goal, because one of the biggest pieces of feedback that I get from the individuals that I work with and from people that are, trying to inform themselves about this is the last thing that I want to do when I'm sleep deprived, when I'm anxious, when I'm stressed, is to just dive into this really dense book with a lot of intense literature. So we really
Yes,
wanted to make it something that was accessible and approachable, that you
that's
can
right.
flip through rather than needing to kind of carve out a few hours with
Yeah.
perfect silence to be able to
Nobody's
kind of go
got
through
time
it.
for that when you're, like you said, sleep deprived and you're just mostly on survival mode when you have a baby, right? Like those first
Exactly.
few weeks and months can be so hard.
We really wanted to
Yeah.
honor that.
Yeah.
And so, with Good Moms Have Scary Thoughts, that was more directed towards the general population of
Mhm.
all new parents, new mothers, because of how common those intrusive, scary thoughts can be. But we wanted to have an additional book that was more catered to what happens when it takes the next step, what
Mhm.
happens when we're going into the obsessive compulsive direction. And
Mhm.
that's where we came up with this idea to kind of have this follow-up sequel that
Mhm.
we called Unchecked, to kind of identify how common and how prevalent the desire and
Yes.
urge to check is, especially with the postpartum perinatal population. But also that the goal here is to be able to be comfortable leaving things somewhat unchecked, to be able to work to that next step, to say, I do not need to be a prisoner to this cycle anymore.
Yeah. I love it. And I have to say that title is perfect, unchecked, all about perinatal OCD. We all got to get a copy quickly. When is your launch date? And tell us how we can find where do we find the book for purchase?
Absolutely. So we are expecting a release date on August 4th. So that's coming up in a few weeks. Our publisher, Familius Books, has their own website, but they also have it for available for pre-sale on Amazon. I also want to give a very, very clear shout out to our illustrator, Molly McIntyre. She's an amazing illustrator out of Brooklyn. And without these comics, the book felt incomplete. We knew that we wanted to have them in there, but when Karen and I got the chance to kind of go through and see the work that she had done and see it next to the text that we had worked so hard, we were really blown away. So that was another part of the process
Amazing.
that I just wanted to name because it really brings it all together.
Yes. And I have to say, I got to take a sneak peek at your book, right? And the illustrations are phenomenal. And it's just so much color and life and emotion, even with the, like you said, illustrations. She did a fabulous job.
Hey,
Yeah.
well, I wish I could take credit for that part of it, but we're really lucky to have her. And
Yeah.
we really think more than anything, this is something that can help people, which is ultimately the goal here,
Yes.
because it is so scary. And we want people to have, some resources that can normalize and provide some
That's
perspective
right.
there.
Yes, that's right. And you and Karen Kleiman have done fabulous job too with this
Thank you.
book. So I'm so excited to grab a copy too. So before, again, this is so exciting, but I know for any viewers today, anyone that might be struggling with perinatal OCD, or maybe they have a pre-existing OCD diagnosis that, again, maybe they're familiar with and they're thinking about getting pregnant, or maybe they're struggling, what kind of, tips can you give? What kind of, anything that you want to bring to mind? I know this is a lot of the work I do as well. So
Hmm.
I love the fact that we're not only are we dealing with people in crisis, but we also help with prevention. So
Absolutely.
coming from you in your own words, Noah, what are your tips that you want to share with our viewers today?
The main thing is not being afraid to reach out. It's
Hmm.
intimidating. It's overwhelming. It's hard
Hmm.
in day to day life. It's especially hard when you are expecting or have just had a baby. So I want to really name the fact that that is not an easy feat and that is a systemic issue. But
Hmm.
ultimately, having the courage to take this step can open up so much. And you mentioned prevention. I have a lot of individuals that I'm working with that either are about to start trying, are have gotten pregnant and are just want to be on top of it, have anxious tendencies. What I can say is resources are helpful, and that if you have a few pieces in place ahead of time, it makes it that much easier if anything does come up. But more than anything, what I want to say is it does get easier no matter what,
Yeah,
inevitably. That is not to say that you need to do this alone, but that is one piece of this time period is you will start get putting the pieces together and figuring out up from down. And so to have that hope and to not get so lost in the stuckness is really the main thing that I want to give people, that even when it feels like nothing is going to help, there are so many options available.
yeah, that's true. That's true. There's a lot of treatment options, and um, hope is on the horizon, right? That's the main
Exactly.
point, is you don't have to be stuck in all of that. Yeah,
Exactly. And
yeah,
that this can be characteristic of a perfectly healthy and good parental experience. The presence of these symptoms does not make you a less than parent. This is
that's right.
something that individuals come up against, and it does not need to be the marker of you as a person or as a parent.
Absolutely. Absolutely. 100%. I love that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, I love everything you're saying and sharing with us today, Noah. If anybody would like to reach out to you regarding your services as a perinatal psychotherapist, trainer, consultant, what is the best way to be in touch?
I would definitely recommend going to our website, postpartumstress.com. That has both our treatment facilities, the resources for parents, and also some of our training information for those providers and clinicians that might be interested. You can also reach us at 610-525-7527. Kind of the same thing, but really any way to get in touch, we can get you put into the right place. I also want to give a shout out to a few additional resources. Postpartum Support International,
Mhm.
especially for those kind of all over the globe. There is a lot of
Yes,
great resources there. And from an OCD perspective, iocdf.org is an amazing resource that has information and also has the links to be able to get put in touch with providers. So just a few additional pieces that I want everybody to have in their back pocket.
that's so fantastic. Yes, absolutely. The more resources that are specialized, the more we're able to help people with, specific needs and so forth. That's fantastic. So, thank you so much, Noah. We
Thank
appreciate
you.
you sharing your expertise and clarity regarding the vital work you're doing as a perinatal mental health psychotherapist, trainer, consultant, and now author.
I appreciate it.
Congratulations once again. If anybody would like to be in touch with Noah Suzuki again, please contact him at the postpartumstress.com
Hmm.
website or telephone number 610-525-7527. Thank you
Awesome.
again, Noah. And if any of you have found this time to be educational, empowering, insightful to your health and well being, please click on the button below and subscribe to my channel. Also, please feel free to share this with your friends and family and anyone who would benefit from today's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I look forward to sharing what you need to know next time. Take care and be well. Thank you.
Awesome.